Hey, Tay.
Hey, Sketch, we just watched Frieren Beyond Journey's End, the first episode of Journey's End. How long do you think elves live?
I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. It's a bit of a tricky question. We do get to see this beautiful moment where Frieren goes off by herself, and we see days and days and days, seasons go by in a blink of an eye. And I think it's a really beautiful scene that showcases Frieren's perspective on.
Sketch, it was a rhetorical question. You should have just stopped at I don't know, because I have the answer here. Alright, right? So, if we take the scene where we see the days switching over completely fast, right? This is showing how Frieren experiences these days. That whole scene is 10 seconds long of all the days switching before she pauses and talks again, right? And then we see that this is 50 years. So we have a conclusive experience of how long 50 years feels for Frieren. So you take those 10 seconds and you make it into a minute because it's going to make our calculations easier later. So 50 years, 10 seconds, 300 years, 1 minute for Frieren, right? That's how she perceives time. Now let's take the average lifespan of a human, which is about 80 years. It's a little bit less. We're gonna go with 80 years for the easy math, right? So you take 80 times 365, you get 29,200 years. Now you gotta take that to hours, so you multiply that by 24, and you get 200,800 hours. Now you gotta make that into minutes, right? Because we got the minute per year. Times 60, you get 42,048,000 minutes. Now Frieren experiences 300 years in a minute. So you take that number, and this is the big number that's going to give us her lifespan, times 300. And you get 12,614,400,000 years is the average lifespan of an elf.
My brain hurts now. I can't math. But if you want some easy math, hit that subscribe button. +1 is significantly easier than whatever Tay just spouted off.
Right? So this is what we came to as a I came to, I should say, as a high end. The one that we agree at the low end is, let's just say Frieren experiences a day as a year, because that's how she makes it sound like. It was just a mere 10 years.
Yeah, she says, like, she'll say, like, large of years as if it's nothing. Oh, it's a mere 10 years. I'll wander around the central lands for about 100 years or so.
Right? So in a similar vein, we would say a mere 10 years would be like a days, right? Because even 10 months feels like too long for just to say a mere 10 months for us.
Yeah.
But a mere 10 days? Yeah, it was only a 10-day trip. It was only a 10-day work project. It was only, that sounds reasonable. So if we take that logic that 1 day is a year, you take that same 365 times 80, you get 29,200 years for Frieren's lifespan, which is, very large number for her to feel that, years isn't that long, but still big enough that,
Yeah, it's honestly an insanely long number, and it kind of contributes to how she seems to view time as it's nothing, and that sort of skews her perspective, especially when it comes to some of the other characters like Hemo. Oh, it's just a mere 10 years, but for Hemo,
that was the biggest adventure of his life.
yeah, that was the biggest adventure of his life. He slew the Demon King,
with all his friends.
With all his friends, for like friends that he will treasure for the rest of his life.
And then the best part about this is my favorite scene is when they go back traveling to see the starfall, the star shower. What do they call them? Shooting stars?
Yeah.
Right? Frieren doesn't see it as a big deal, just barely remembers that they're gonna go do it and meets up with them. But the rest of the crew is amped up, excited, and very thankful for taking them on their last journey.
Yeah, this really great moment, and the time she says it like, oh, the here isn't that great from the city, and he was like, oh, have this moment,
but this is not gonna happen for 50 years.
Yeah, but the second time they do it, Frieren, just like, oh, thank you for this, Frieren, and she kind of moment hang.
Right, and I think this was a little bit of a showing character growth that she didn't come in and say it's no big deal, like it's nothing. It's because she lets the thank you sit, which I think is really appreciative for the audience.
Yeah, I think realizes that this means something to her friends. I mean, her like, the second star show, you do actually see Frieren smiling the entire time, and a lot to her friends, and especially to Hemo, which is why he says thank you. Anything, she just lets moment hang, and then we cut to the next scene where Hemo's dead.
Yeah, it's an interesting moment because it shows the dichotomy of how Frieren is viewed versus how Frieren feels and how everyone else there is.
Yeah, because it's a mere 50 years, and she's like, huh, they changed a little bit. She hears her friend, she turns around, and he's suddenly a very short old man who's bald.
Yeah. But for the rest of them, it's nice because they're still great friends with her. Not feeling in a similar vein, they still regard Frieren as this
As
great friend of theirs.
yeah, I mean, shows this, or get to see this from Hemo's perspective, through the Shadow Dragon horn. Because Frieren says like, oh, Hemo has that Shadow Dragon horn, right? Oh, I'll just go pick it up from him. But from Hemo, it's just like, oh, this is a great treasure that my friend entrusted to me to give to her later down the line.
And he kept it for his whole life.
Despite, weird smoke from his cabinet the entire time.
But her other friends do a great job too. During the funeral, while everyone is scoffing at Frieren, they come to protect her. Look at us. We're not sad either. We're happy for him.
Yeah.
We're like Frieren.
Yeah, I'm MVP for that, and honestly, my personal MVP for the episode. He just knows what to say, especially towards Freeman, because he seems to know how long elves live. He has a certain, maybe not complete understanding, but he has the knowledge of how these things are, and he knows what to say. So, like, oh, look, we're not sad like Freeman. No. And he even says, like, to Freeman, like, oh, I'm not afraid about dying. My life, the goddess will forgive me, whatever.
Right, and it brings up a question to mind. Is it better to live 12,614,400,000 years?
Oh my god.
Or is it worse to live that amount of time? What would you say, Sketch?
I mean, your time would definitely be skewed. So, if anyone has ever wondered why years always seem to be shorter, for you, because in your perspective, they kind of are.
The first year you live is your benchmark. This sets the first year. That's your whole life. The second year is half your life. The third year is a third of your life. The fourth year is a fourth of your life. And that's why time seems like it's going faster, because you're comparing this 1 year to your whole life.
Now, take this to the extreme towards Freeren's perspective, who has lived through an inordinate amount of years at this point.
At least 200 to 300, right? So imagine this only being 1/300th of her total life. As far as we know, she might have lived even longer, right? But then brings us to the question: would you rather live that long or not?
Or live a complete life. I mean, her have lived complete lives. Himelo seems to be very content with how his life has gone, and so is Hyder. We don't really get too much about the last guy. I forgot his name. Oopsies.
Right, but we also don't get a chance to see what regretful lives look like, except in Frieren. The only person that's regretting how they live so far is Frieren. But the advantage is that she gets to redo life, right? And this leads me to the second question: is how do you value friendships and the limited time you have with them overall, not just for Frieren? Because Frieren has missed the opportunity to value her first set of friends, as far as we can see.
Yeah, and then it's sort of a for him, but as for, because you really know how friendships will end or how will they go. So you really do have to make the most of, like, the amount of time that you have with them while you still have them. And I think that was the point of the episode.
Yeah, to value them, to not just, throw them a rug whenever you think that this is no big deal. Because it is a big deal, because you only get one chance. Enjoy it, right? And for friendships ending, I think the moral is, quote, is it better to have loved and lost or to never love at all?
Yeah.
Right? And I think they made it clear in this episode that it was better for all of her friends to have experienced each other's company than to have not experienced it at all.
I mean,
they all filled lives.
I mean, even heartbreak at Hemo's death, she gets to go on to a new journey, granted, a journey for herself, to kind of discover more about humans and, maybe about her old friends this way.
Yeah, and it's a great setup for the whole series. It's a great episode number 1. I don't think this is going to be our shonen power manga trip. I definitely think there'll be some fight scenes. We already see magic use, but I think this story is heavily relying on how strong it can create its characters. And this first episode, despite us knowing that the only character that's really going to stay with us is Frieren, did a great job of telling us who Heimel was, who Hyler was, who, even though he was a little reserved, the dwarf was.
Oh, you remember the dwarf. And then we also get a pretty good insight on Frieren herself.
Yeah, about how she takes, what she values, and who she is. If you want to listen to the next episode, hit that subscribe button. I'll talk to you soon.
Laters.